1. I'd done a lot of people watching in my lifetime. Various reasons came into play with that, most related to the finding of facts, the gathering of information necessary to whatever task was at hand. Now, though, when I indulged the urge, it was much less about the utility of it. It was more to do with the pure curiosity of observing strangers going about their lives without a care. They were just living, going about their same schedules, their same routines with zero vigilance. No real fear of things that went bump in the night. Or of those things, those people, like me, that were stealthy enough not to make a sound. Not that it mattered anymore. Not at a time when, really, I should envy the overwhelming normalcy of these people. The thing that, for me, had been so damned elusive. Instead of blending in with the crowd, I was relegated to my window, watching. Well, I guess that implied I had to stay there instead of joining in, huh? In reality, it was more that these people these days had exactly no relevance to my life. I didn't fit in or belong. A little sad, considering I'd lived in the neighborhood for 3 months. Despite the insistence of my mentor, I hadn't been able to bring myself to take advantage of any of the quaint neighborhood's amenities. Not a single boutique or restaurant, not even the coffee house across the street. That was where I saw the most eclectic sampling of the community, streaming in and out of there with hot and cold drinks, pastries in their hands. At night, it turned into a lounge, sometimes with lines reminiscent of a nightclub, and the throbbing music to match. I watched. I listened. And then one night, finally, I decided I would go. It took another 3 weeks to actually go through with it, though. Decisiveness had never been a problem of mine, at least not that I could remember. Not until now, when every single one of my own moments was up to me, from the minutiae to the big decisions. Not that I had any of those. In the immediate, my most significant decision was what to wear to Urban Grind, the insanely popular coffee house across the street from the abandoned candle shop I'd purchased. Who the fuck needs an entire storefront for candles? Certainly not me. What I did need was somewhere that I could fade into the crowd, not overpopulated enough that I couldn't be aware of my surroundings, but inhabited enough that I could take advantage of the camouflage that came with living in the city. Mahogany Heights was perfect for that. And so was the apartment above the storefront. It was studio style, open and airy to make up for the fact that it was tiny, and it was all mine. There were no wake-up calls, no drills in the middle of the night, no rules, mostly about what I could and couldn't have, what colors I could use, what I could hang on the walls, what I could have in my closet. I smirked, very satisfied with myself, as I slid the door back on the tiny space, peering in at the hangers that held my curated items. I happened to like the black, white, and gray palette imposed upon us in the garden, so it was repeated here. But still, I'd handpicked them all without a single thought to who else might like it. For tonight's adventure, I chose a simple white top that bared my midriff, comfortable black jeans, and black and white sneakers and basic silver hoop earrings. I wasn't dressing to impress. I was dressing to look like any other late 20-something that might be there, so I could blend into the crowd instead of standing out. In the mirror, I tugged at the neckline of the top, which I'd never worn before, self-conscious about the tattoo just above my breast near my armpit. The only tangible thing linking me to my old life. It wouldn't do for that to be showing. Once I was satisfied the shirt did a good enough job keeping my brand logo under wraps, I grabbed my keys and wristlet to head out. This time, I made it all the way to the door that led out to the street before I stopped. What are you so afraid of? For the life of me, I couldn't figure it out. There were very few people in the world who knew who I was, and even fewer cared. Of those who did, maybe some wanted me dead. Most wouldn't put any money or resources behind it. My threat level was pretty low. In fact, I was probably safer now than I'd been in a very long time, much more than I'd been when every public outing had a dossier attached, including details of who I was supposed to be at any given moment. I was one girl now, just me, and there was no mission besides living my life however I wanted. Nobody coming for me, and really, maybe that was the problem. I could step masterfully into any role I was handed without missing a beat, without detection. But this wasn't a role. It was life, something I had painful little experience with. I pushed the door open and stepped out, refusing to allow myself the comfort of going back upstairs. It was barely 10 o'clock, and the spring weather was beautiful, so there were plenty of people out and about. I ignored them all, locking the door behind me and heading for the crosswalk, keeping my focus narrow. Across the street, through the front doors, up to the counter to order a spiked chai with a drizzle of chocolate, a cozy seat with my drink, close enough to the stage to enjoy the music, but tucked away enough not to be bothered. You did it. You're here. I allowed myself a private smile about this silly-ass accomplishment before I resumed my usual people-watching, only up close this time. The Heights was a majority Black neighborhood, and urban grind attracted a pretty diverse subsection of that. All ages, interests, economic levels, whatever, without even trying. It was nice. It was really nice, actually. Especially when I found myself swaying along to the live music, really enjoying it. This felt good. The throng of bodies, the loud music, the sweet stench of marijuana faintly mingled with liquor. I couldn't say it was necessarily familiar, but it was comforting. For the first time in a while, actually, there was an unmistakable feeling of ease lightening the usual tension in my shoulders as I raised my chai to my lips, taking it all in, feeling bizarrely guilty about it. Being comfortable and relaxed, enjoying yourself, those things didn't keep you alive. Apprehension and vigilance did. But I hadn't been able to exercise even those particular muscles as well as I'd have liked over the past year. Though an argument could be made that my persistent caution had kept me safe from the usual harm that came along with my former profession, a somewhat opposite case could be made as well. A case that I was overthinking this shit. Because no matter what could have happened, if I'd done this thing or that thing differently, the fact was that there had been no bump in the night. No one had come for me. There was no bounty on my head. No one fucking cared. For a different woman, that could have been a blow to the ego, but for me, there was a certain freedom in that. The freedom to sit in a crowded, semi-dark coffee house listening to live neo-soul music that was, despite being embarrassingly cozy, actually really good. The freedom to just enjoy myself. Pretty bitch like you shouldn't be sitting here alone. Shit. Perfection never did last very long, huh? I kept my face blank as I turned to the man who deemed himself significant enough to interrupt my solitary vibe. Not that it mattered how he looked, what he might have to offer, what the fuck ever. I wasn't on that shit right now. Especially not for a man with that haircut. No, I said simply, then tried to give my attention back to my mug. Yo, excuse me? He asked, obviously not getting the picture since he stepped closer. Rolling my head back in his direction again, I gave him another quick once-over. In addition to the whack haircut, his clothes were ill-fitting too. Ugh. I let out a sigh, resigning myself to the fact that a one-word answer was clearly not enough. Stop talking to me. I let my gaze linger on his, my face pulled into a drab expression long enough to make sure I'd communicated effectively this time. His brow knit together in a frown as my words connected. Bingo. I gave my attention back to the stage, focusing hard on the pretty singer and her pretty boyfriend on the keyboard. Well, I tried. Again, it was hard to keep my focus there when some motherfucker had his hand in a vice grip around my forearm, yanking me up from the bench where I'd been seated and almost making me spill my mug. It had been so long since I killed a man. Damn. I spent a split second erasing my mental days without incident board, and then I snatched my arm away from whoever the hell this dude was as I struggled to keep myself calm. My mentor would be really disappointed in me if I handled this the way I wanted to. So I was trying. Who the fuck you think you talking to, huh? His breath was sour with one too many shots as he hissed in my face, obviously emboldened by the darkened room and the crowd's attention to the stage. A smile played at my lips as I looked him right in the eyes, deciding right then that I couldn't let this ride. If you don't walk away and leave me alone, a dead man, that's who